Have you ever just stopped and wondered if your choices are actually your own? It is a massive question, and it's right at the heart of one of theology's oldest, most intense debates, predestination versus free will. This is a puzzle that has tied thinkers in knots for centuries, and today we're going to try to untangle it.
So here's the big question, right? If you believe God has the whole story of our lives already written out, is our feeling of free will just an illusion? Are we all just actors on a stage playing out parts in some grand divine script? To even start to answer that, we've got to figure out what we even mean when we say free will.
So, what is free will really? Well, the most popular definition, the one most of us probably have in our heads, is built on an idea that our source material calls the myth of neutrality. Let's break that down.
It's pretty fascinating when you think about it. Most of us imagine our will as this perfectly balanced, completely neutral thing, like a blank slate, right? No pre-existing bias, no secret thumb on the scale pulling us one way or the other. And that sounds like the ultimate freedom, doesn't it? But, as we're about to see, this whole idea of a neutral will runs into a couple of huge problems.
Okay, so let's dig into those two flaws. First up, you've got a moral problem. Think about it. If your choice has no reason or desire behind it, if it's completely random, how can it be a good choice or a bad choice? It has no moral weight at all. And then second, there's a rational problem. How in the world can you actually choose anything if you have zero preference for one thing over another? You just can't.
You remember Alice in Wonderland, right? When she gets to that fork in the road and asks the Cheshire Cat which way to go, he asks her where she wants to get to. She says she doesn't much care, and he says, then it doesn't matter which way you go. And he's totally right. Without a desire, a destination you want to reach, there is no basis for making a choice. You're just stuck.
Okay, here's another classic thought experiment that drives the same point home: the starving mule. Imagine a poor mule, and he's placed in the dead center between two identical, equally delicious piles of hay. What happens? Well, in theory, the mule starves to death. Why? Because there's no stronger desire pulling him to the left or to the right. He literally has no motive to choose, so he's completely paralyzed by his own neutrality. So, if that whole neutral will idea doesn't really work, what's the alternative? Well, there's a totally different way to look at this, a framework based heavily on the work of the famous 18th century theologian Jonathan Edwards. Let's put these two views side by side so we can really see the difference. The common view, the neutral view, says that real freedom is being free from any desire or inclination. But this other view, the Edwardian view, flips that on its head. It says the will is simply the mind choosing, and get this, real freedom is the ability to act on your strongest inclination.
And this leads us to this core principle. Let's call it Edwards' law of choice. It's so simple, but it's incredibly profound. The will always chooses according to its strongest inclination at that very moment. And this isn't some outside force pulling your strings. This is self-determination. Our choices are determined by what we, ourselves, want the most.
Okay, let's make this super practical. The ice cream example. We've all been there. You're on a diet, but man, you really want that giant ice cream sundae. You have two desires fighting it out. In that moment of decision, your mind is weighing them. And whichever one is stronger for you right then and there, that's the one you're going to choose. That's your will, live in action.
But wait, you might say, what about being forced to do something? Okay, think about a robber pointing a gun at you, yelling, "Your money or your life." Is he overriding your free will? Not exactly. What he's actually doing is instantly, dramatically changing your desires. All of a sudden, your desire to live is way, way stronger than your desire to hold on to your wallet. You still choose based on your strongest desire.
Okay, so this all leads to the next huge question. If we always choose what we desire most, then the million-dollar question is, where do those desires come from in the first place? And this, my friends, is where the theological idea of original sin enters the story.
Now, we need to be really clear about what original sin means in this way of thinking. It's not just about the first sin that ever happened. No, it refers to the result of that sin, this fallen, corrupt moral state that is now just a part of our human nature. The idea is we don't just happen to commit sins, we are, by our very nature, sinners.
This chart here really breaks down the whole thing. Take a look at that pre-fall column. Humanity was able to sin, sure, but also able to not sin. Now, look at post-fall. According to this view, after the fall, we're still able to sin, but now we are unable to not sin.
That moral ability to freely choose what is right is gone. It can only be brought back through a spiritual rebirth.
This brings up a really key distinction between two different kinds of ability. We all have natural ability. We've got minds, we've got wills, we have the basic machinery to make choices. But what fallen humanity lacks in this view is moral ability. That is, the inherent desire to make choices that are good and pleasing to God.
So you see the pickle we're in, right? If we lack the moral ability to even truly desire God, how could anyone ever possibly choose to follow him? This leads us straight to the final piece of this theological puzzle, the divine solution.
The whole argument really leans on key passages from the Bible, like this one from the Gospel of John. Jesus says, "No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him." Just notice that word can. It's a statement about ability, not just about permission. So what does that word draw actually mean here? Is it a gentle kind of wooing, an invitation you can easily say no thanks to? Or is it something a lot more powerful? Well, the original Greek word used here, elko, is the exact same word used in other parts of the Bible for drag, like dragging a net full of fish or dragging someone into court. It suggests a really powerful, compelling, effective action.
And Jesus makes a really similar point when he's talking to Nicodemus. He says flat out that unless a person is born again, they can't even see the kingdom of God, let alone choose it. Being born again is presented as a necessary first step. You have to have it just to get spiritual sight.
And all of this builds up to a core theological principle. Regeneration precedes faith. Now, regeneration is just that born-again experience we were just talking about. It's the supernatural act of God changing a person's heart and literally giving them brand new desires. Only after that happens is a person even able to truly believe. In this view, even the ability to have faith is itself a gift.
And that leaves us with one last massive question to chew on. If it's true that we can only ever choose what we desire, and if our deepest, core desires are inherently fallen and biased against God until He steps in, then what does it truly mean to be responsible for our choices?